Thank you. Good evening. Tonight's Committee of Adjustment hearing is being held by video conference and live streaming video on the town's live stream webpage at oakville.ca. This is a hearing to consider applications for minor variance and consents held under the authority of the Planning Act. Please keep in mind the intent of this process is to review the application that is before the committee, listen to the evidence, and then make a decision. This process is not intended to be used to resolve any concerns or disputes that may exist between the town individuals or organizations. If a request for a deferral is made and the committee grants such a request, the applicant or authorized agent must contact the Secretary Treasurer to schedule a new hearing date. In order to conduct an effective and efficient electronic hearing, we have adopted the following process. If you're watching the live stream this hearing on oakville.ca and you wish to speak to an item on the agenda, you can call 905-815-6095. Again, 905-815-6095. Phone number is also posted on your screen below the live stream at oakville.ca. Staff will be standing by to take your call. When you call in, staff will ask your name, item number you wish to address, and your phone number. Further instructions will be provided for you to call back to join the video conference. When the chair of the committee polls for interested parties, press *6 to unmute yourself. The applicant or agent will be given the opportunity to briefly explain to the committee the basis of the application and answer any questions that may arise. Maximum of 5 minutes will be provided for a presentation. You will need to state your full name and address for the record. Any submissions beyond 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the committee. All delegations must also state their full name and address for the record. Maximum of 5 minutes will be provided to make your presentation. All remarks and questions are to be directed to the chair. Any submissions beyond 5 minutes, again, will be at the discretion of the committee. The applicant or agent will then be provided with a further 5 minutes to respond to the comments made by any interested parties and answer any questions from the committee members. If the applicant or agent has any concerns found in the staff report, particularly with any proposed conditions, this is your opportunity to advise us. The matter will then be taken into committee for a decision. This will mark the end of all discussion. Any person desiring a notice of the decision or an application must provide a written request, preferably through email, to the Secretary Treasurer. Written notice of the committee's decision will be mailed not later than 10 days for minor variance and 15 days for consent to the applicant and their agent and any other person who filed a written request for such notice. The last day to appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal will be noted on the decision. Only the applicant, specified persons, or public bodies may appeal the committee's decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. In November 2022, Bill 23, the More Homes Built Faster Act, amended the Planning Act to remove appeal rights from members of the public. If no appeal is received within the prescribed time frame, the decision of the committee becomes final and binding. The Secretary Treasurer will then notify the applicant and anyone who received a copy of the decision through written correspondence. People participating in this hearing are to be courteous to and respectful of the members of the committee, town staff, and other people participating in this electronic hearing. Tonight's electronic hearing is being video recorded and available for future viewing at oakville.ca. Thank you. We have regrets tonight from Mr. Dickey and Ms. McHale. Do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest? Let me see, none. Do we have any requests for deferrals or withdrawals of applications?
I'm showing no hands in the attendees, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary Treasurer, is the applicant or agent for A093 at 361 McDonald in the meeting? There's an issue with their notice sign.
Yes, one moment. I'll move Esmin into the meeting. 1 minute, please.
Okay, good evening. On my site visit, I noticed that although you had your notice signs posted, uh, both signs as your corner lot were posted right up against the house, and as a result, the sign information could not be read from the sidewalk. And it's a clear requirement of the posting of the sign that it be located in such a location that it can be read from the public right away. And unfortunately, your signs were not posted in that nature, which constitutes insufficient notice. So we're going to have no choice but to defer your application to another time when the signs are posted correctly. Can you unmute yourself, please, sir?
Hello, hi, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, my apologies. My client has posted that sign, and I was not aware of the fact that it was not posted in the right spot. I haven't seen this. Is there any other way that we can be granted? We have a number of supports actually from the neighbors, from the staff, and from the Heritage Committee. At least 7 letters in support of the application. So public has been notified, obviously, and these are the adjacent neighbors I'm talking about. Is there any way that we can waive this? Unfortunately, I was not aware of the fact, otherwise I would have advised the client as well.
Yes, I do see that you have support from staff and a number of neighbors, but the signs are not posted in such a way that they can be read. So we don't know whether somebody having the opportunity to have read those signs would have a differing view. So unfortunately, to answer your question, there is no ability to proceed in a matter like this. We're going to have to defer the matter. You're going to have to contact the Secretary Treasurer for a new date and make sure that the signs are posted appropriately for that hearing.
Mr. Chair, sorry, I'm receiving a call from my client. Would I be able to engage in this conversation at the moment?
Well, it's not going to help the discussion because the signs aren't posted appropriately. So we're going to have to defer it. It's not a matter of, why. We've had applications where signs were posted and knocked down and nobody put them back up. Those applications have to be deferred. So it's a procedural requirement in this case. So
okay,
unfortunately, we're going to have to defer it, and if you can contact Secretary or Treasurer to get back on the next available agenda.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for intervening.
May I add, Mr. Chair, that there's also going to be a deferral fee?
Okay, correct.
Thank you.
Hello.
Okay, no further deferrals. We'll move to.
Mr. Chair, my apologies again. I'm hearing from a client that. Do you hear me, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes. I have my client on the line, and she's just advising me that the signs were posted. The information was sent to the city, to the town, and they were okay by email.
Unfortunately, they're not posted in the appropriate location, so that we are going to have.
Hear me?
Yeah, the application's been deferred. I'll have to contact Secretary Treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
We'll move on to consent application tonight, which is heard in conjunction with two variance applications at 200 William Street. That's consent application B2605 and minor variance applications A044 2026 and A045 2026. We will hear the presentations as questions, comments on all three applications as a whole. And committee members, when we get to motions, we will need three separate motions, one for each application. Good evening, Mr. Demchuk.
Good evening, Member Tulesky, and good evening, members of the committee and the public. Thank you. My name is Paul Demchuk with Vittori Planning and Management. I'm the planning consultant on behalf of the applicant for 200 William. Here is just a rendering of both the existing heritage dwelling and the proposed new dwelling on the severed lot, just located on the right-hand side of the screen. If I could take staff to the next slide, please. And so just to briefly walk through the site and area context. So the subject site is located, and it's a corner lot on the southwest corner of William Street and George Street. It's a square-shaped lot with an area of 1,019 square meters and an identical frontage and depth of 31.8 meters. The site currently consists of an existing residential heritage dwelling, originally constructed in 1922, as well as a detached wood frame garage, which is accessed from George Street. The dwelling features a deck, which leads to the rear yard, as well as a balcony access from the second story of the building, which faces George Street. I'll note that a pre-consultation meeting for the site was held with staff originally on July of 2024. And my client has worked over the last 2 years to get to this stage. And I will note as well, my client's an existing resident within the Heritage Conservation District in this neighborhood, who is seeking to revitalize this existing dwelling and develop the underutilized lands specifically to the west of the dwelling with the new proposed dwelling as well. Next slide, please. So just briefly, the subject site is located within the old Oakville Heritage Conservation District. This was established originally in 1981, and it's the town's first designated district. It features diverse architectural styles, including 19th century Georgian, neoclassical, Victorian, and classical revival architectural styles. The Old Oakville Heritage Conservation District, it encompasses primarily low density scale and heights with a range of lot sizes and configurations, varied building setbacks, and a mix of building typologies, which you can see here in a series of these images. Next slide, please. And so the proposed development is requesting to sever the existing lot into two lots. The lots will each have frontage of just over 16 meters of frontage on William Street and a depth of 31.8 meters. The existing residential dwelling, which again is a heritage building, will remain in situ on the retained lot, which is located on the right-hand side of the screen, save for minor alterations, including a small rear addition to accommodate interior staircase, as well as a reconstruction and reconfiguration of the front porch and existing wood deck on the George Street side of the property. On the severed lot, the proposed development includes a new 2-story detached dwelling with an overall floor area of 225 square meters. The dwelling is 9 meters in height and features a 22.9 square meter attached garage, a covered front porch, and a rear wood deck, which I'll show in a moment here. Next slide, please. So there's a series of variances that are required to the lot fabric to permit the proposed consent application. There's also variances required to the lot coverage and floor area ratio, as well as to the front yard setback and flankage yard setback, which specifically pertains to the existing heritage dwelling. And I will explain briefly on the following slides. Next slide, please. So these are the front and rear elevations of the proposed new dwelling on the severed lot. And the architecture of this dwelling has been carefully considered in terms of materials, roof lines, proportions to ensure compatibility with the adjacent heritage designated properties, as well as the local context within Old Oakville Heritage Conservation District. And the dwelling respects and contributes to the varied character of buildings within the immediate area. Again, this design has gone through considerable review and design revisions over the past 2 years to get to this point, including working sessions and discussions with heritage staff, urban design staff, planning staff at the town, as well as some members of the Oakville Lakeside Residents Association. Next slide, please. These are just a series of the side elevations, east and west side of the proposed dwelling. Next slide, please. This is a streetscape image shown on this slide, which is intended to demonstrate how the proposed dwelling will fit in with the context of the street, and specifically among the adjacent dwellings, again, with a compatible height and all setbacks that are otherwise stipulated within the zoning bylaw. Next slide, please. And so I'll just briefly go through a series of the variances as they pertain to the development. And I'll start with the lot fabric and being first the minimum lot area. So within the planning rationale report that was submitted in support of the application, we did look at the immediate context of the area. A total of 19 lots were assessed, which include all the surrounding lots abutting the subject site and within the immediate block. The majority of lots within the studied area are detached residential dwellings, with the exception of the 2 semi-detached dwellings adjacent to the property along William Street. And as you can see in the study area map, there's a range of lot patterns within the surrounding context, some with more smaller and more compact lot patterns, and others with wider and less compact lot patterns. I will note that in its existing form, the subject site has the 4th largest lot area and the 6th largest frontage within the study area. And I'll just note that this study area, it ranges from lot areas with considerable, with considerable variety. I'll note that 9 of the 19 lots in the immediate context have smaller lot areas than what is proposed with the subject properties. Next slide, please. Just as it relates to minimum frontage, again, the lot frontages range from 6.16 meters to 35.68 meters, with 10 of the 19 lots having lot frontages below 18 meters. And I'll note that, again, the retained and proposed lots have a frontage of just over 16 meters. And 8 of the 19 lots within this immediate context have a lot frontage that is less than the proposed lot frontages. So again, the lot area and lot frontage are characteristics that are commonly found and fit well and appropriately within the context of the immediate neighborhood. Next slide, please. Given the diversity of lot sizes, lot coverage also significantly varies on properties, which ranges from 17 to 37%. And I'll note that only 7 of the 19 properties have lot coverages that are within the permitted maximums of the zoning bylaw. And I'll note that of the study area of the 19 lots, 47% of lots have greater lot coverages than what is proposed on within the respective development. Next slide, please. I know the maximum floor area ratio calculation has been modified as part of some of the recent amendments from the 2014 zoning bylaw, but I just would like to note that the current maximum floor area ratio for the study area, I'll note that all dwellings in the study area have a floor area ratio above 30%, which is, I know, the existing variance that we are seeking a variance for. However, I will note that 53% of lots within the immediate context have floor area ratios that are greater than both the retained and severed lots. Next slide, please. Just to briefly address the minimum front and flankage yard setback. I'll note that the front porch and balcony are being slightly modified for the existing heritage dwelling, and they are designed in a way that complements the existing build form and scale of the heritage dwelling. And so I'll note that the flankage setback is an existing condition based on the original siting of the building, albeit there's a small proposed porch and balcony extension, which is shown in blue here on this slide. Next image, please. And here's just a further visual that demonstrates the flankage yard, which again is an existing condition, and it only pertains specifically in this instance to the second floor balcony and the proposed balcony extension, which is intended to improve the architecture of the existing heritage dwelling. And again, I'll note it has been supported by heritage staff at the town. Next slide, please. So just briefly in summary, I will note that we did see the 10 letters of concern for the proposed applications. Again, my client has worked diligently on this application. There has been community outreach for the proposed development. So I'm before the committee and happy to assist and answer any questions, as well as comments and questions from the public this evening. We also had a chance to review the staff report in totality. Obviously, we recognize that they are recommending support of the applications, and I'm happy to assist and answer any questions as it relates to that or the respective conditions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Demchuk. In regard to your last comment, we're now up to 15 letters of opposition that the committee's received. And can you elaborate, because you've got obviously significant opposition, can you elaborate on what you mean by there's been community outreach? Have you met with the neighbors and the neighborhood, and the residents association?
I can state that we have met with a series of members within the Ratepayers Association, with both in-person meetings as well as previous email correspondence. My client also did submit letters to the immediate neighbors as an opportunity for outreach, but I'm not aware that there's been any detailed discussions, unfortunately, as it relates to that.
Thank you. And before I turn it to committee members, one other question at this time. You put up elevation drawings that seem to show cedar shakes on your dormer roofs. You put up renderings that showed metal dormers. Can you elaborate on what it is you're actually proposing? Drawings that seem to be inconsistent.
So I'm just pulling up my notes here. I do have it in my notes here, and I want to just double check and cross-reference this within the heritage impact assessment, but I believe it is a sloped roof with shingles, being cedar shake shingles associated with the roof. But I will double check that, Mr. Tulewski, and confirm.
Is the rendering showed metal roofs? I just want.
Yeah, I do see that it's a black roof being shown.
Committee members, any questions for Mr. Demchuk or staff? I see none. If I can ask staff, Ms. McPhail, the application needs a heritage permit, yet staff are recommending approval based on the plans provided. The staff report says the plans are going to have to be revised due to the need to protect more trees, but the recommendation is approval based on the drawing. The region is asking for deferral of the application because there's no sewage capacity. The word premature comes to mind when I look at those three items. So can you help me explain why staff are supporting the current presentation when first it can't be built on, and second, you're saying it's going to change?
Thank you for the questions, Chair. So the first question is about the variances, why staff are supporting the variances. It's because, as the applicant has presented to you, the nature of the variances are similar to what is currently existing in the immediate neighborhood context. The proposed dwelling, as you see in the streetscape drawing, indicates that a building of a similar size that is respectful of the heritage attributes of the area can be accommodated on the site.
So, sorry, Ms. McPhail, that I don't mean to interrupt. That wasn't my first question. My first question was, you're supporting the application with conditions based on the plans provided, yet you're openly admitting in your staff report that the plans are going to change. So that I'm confused by that.
So in terms of the conditions of the minor variance, they are that the renovations and the proposed dwelling on the lands to be severed are in general accordance with the site plan and drawings that were submitted with this application. There are instances when staff, through the review of, in this case, the heritage permit application, there may be some refinements to that. That's why the in general accordance can be applied in this case. So so that's the answer to the first question. Staff is satisfied with the numerical value of the variances being requested based on the information provided. Another question you raised was about the question of servicing. The region, and in their original comments, did indicate that they were in objection to the proposed consent. However, upon further discussions with the region, they have agreed to enter into a consent agreement with the landowner to confirm that the building on the lands to be severed would not be constructed until servicing would be available. The town is agreeable to that arrangement, as is the applicant. And that's why we are, staff, myself, is satisfied with the consent at this time.
So the region had recommended deferral, and if not deferral, a condition, as opposed to the condition, you put in a condition requiring the consent agreement, as you just spoke about. So the region is in support of that agreement as opposed to the condition that they asked for. I think that's what I heard.
Yes, that's correct. They could advise that a condition that is typical for consent is that the conditions be cleared within 2 years of the approval. Then the regional staff have indicated that improvements needing to be made to the treatment plant may happen within 2 to 5 years, maybe sooner. It depends on their scheduling of those upgrades. So that's why they are agreeable to the consent agreement because they have there is the knowledge that upgrades will take place. It's just that they can't necessarily take place within the 2-year time frame that the Planning Act requires.
Staff's gone a significant leap from a 2-year requirement to no requirement whatsoever. Is there not a more reasonable timeline to put if the committee were to approve the variance for the severed lot? Is no time frame at all to proceed with the building permit. Could be 30 years, and the policies could be completely different than what the town's looking for at that point in time. Wouldn't something then, to use the time frame you gave, a 5-year time frame, perhaps be appropriate?
Through the condition of the minor variances that would implement the consent, there is the 2-year time frame that the variances be granted, and then for the building permits. So yeah, that's when it comes to, say, the severed lot and the new building there, if the variances aren't granted, say for example the heritage committee hasn't made a decision, then the minor variances would fail.
Correct, but if the committee were to grant the variance on the severed lot tonight, it has no time frame for building permit whatsoever, and that seems inappropriate to me. That there should be some time frame associated with the need to get a building permit or the variance failed.
I see that the applicant has his hand up. I wonder if you might be able to speak to that.
Okay, Mr. Demchuk.
Thank you, Member Tulewski. So I'd like to just respond to two items. Number one being the Heritage Committee review and the potential for prematurity, and the second being the servicing time frame. So just on the Heritage Committee review process, obviously I've worked on a number of applications and previously been a planner with the town. I will note that the typical process within the town of Oakville is that the variances would proceed first before the Heritage Committee review occurs. This has happened on a number of other applications I've worked on as well within this within this same Heritage District. Sorry, my apologies. And that's the typical process for the town. And you're right, that sometimes does lead to some minor modifications to window treatments, to materiality, and that would come out of that Heritage Committee review process and comment. The second comment related to servicing timeframe. I look at the condition being provided by the region and the recommendation report from staff as typical to what you see as well in other parts of the town. The one that comes to mind, for example, is all the properties in North Oakville that are subject to allocation agreements. And so in every case in North Oakville, you have properties that can go through zoning amendment applications, that can do draft plan of subdivision applications, but you actually can't build the houses until allocation is provided by the region. And so notwithstanding, this is not an allocation agreement. It's just a function of timing for when the servicing for the Navy Street pumping station is obviously dealt with through their capital works budget. That would be the appropriate mechanism to proceed with this, in my opinion.
I guess I'm looking for a time. And to your earlier comment, I agree with what you said. It's a chicken and egg situation. Something has to come first. But I guess my concern is I would have expected a condition that said, in accordance with the final plans approved by the Heritage Committee, not the plans that are in front of us today. So that's finding the recommended condition a little odd, considering staff on two items are suggesting the plans are going to change, and yet it's not to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning or in accordance with the final approved heritage drawings. I guess, and either one of you can answer this question for me, seeing that we're on the heritage aspect of it. The provincial requirements are to preserve the heritage aspects of the property, not the structure, the property. It seems the effort is being made to preserve the existing heritage structure, but not the heritage attributes of the property, one of which is the quarter-acre lots, which, again, if I read the staff report and the heritage guidelines, one of the objectives is to preserve these quarter-acre lots, and there's only 2 of them in the neighborhood, and we're going to sever one of them. So how does severing a quarter-acre lot comply with the guidelines that say preserve the quarter-acre lot?
If I may answer that question. Staff had to undertake an evaluation of all of the matters of provincial interest in these applications. And a balance of those interests included intensification within an urban area where servicing is available, and where heritage attributes and conservation is necessary. I've done the evaluation. I've determined that this is an appropriate location for gentle intensification. And it's in one of the few areas within the conservation district where there is a quarter lot that has a heritage resource, the building in this case, a dwelling, situated in such a location that would allow for the retention of that building to remain, and then allow some intensification that's appropriate for the neighborhood. So that is the evaluation that I had undertaken, and that was my professional opinion. It still is. When it comes to servicing is available, but not at present in terms of the capacity. So as the applicant has indicated, capacity will be available, and the region has indicated between 2 to 5 years, depending on their capital works project. So had there been had there been an issue where servicing would not be available, like in the case of other properties within the town where servicing is not available, I would not be recommending approval of a consent in that case. But this is a balancing of gentle intensification and heritage attributes, and that was my professional opinion.
So then it's your opinion, and I don't disagree with you. This complies with provincial policy about additional housing intensification, but it absolutely flies in the face of preserve quarter-acre lot. So is it the town's opinion that the need for one additional dwelling outweighs the policies and very new policies that say don't sever quarter-acre lot?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Denchuk, I think this is my last question. The lot itself is smaller than required, and that in itself may be appropriate. But then you're also asking for a house that's larger. So isn't a smaller lot and a larger house, aren't we dealing with a cumulative impact here? Why does the house, you're asking for a smaller lot, why can't you build a house that fits on that lot? As opposed to ask for a house that will fit on probably a more compliant lot.
That's a great question. I really appreciate that. So the zoning bylaw, based on our lot fabric analysis and the character analysis of lot coverages and floor area ratios that exist within the neighborhood, I want to be clear here about this. In many cases around Oakville, the zoning bylaw does represent the neighborhood character in terms of built forms and floor area ratios and lot coverages that you see. In this case, it doesn't. The zoning bylaw does not accurately reflect the existing character of lot coverages, of floor area ratios that are predominant within the neighborhood. I know I showed it on a number of those slides. I believe off the top of my head, it was slides 8 and 9, where we demonstrated, and it's within my planning justification report, the proposed lot coverage and floor area ratio, both for the retained and for the severed lot, are actually fitting within the character of what you see of other lots within this immediate context.
Thank you.
If I could just provide one more additional comment just for the benefit of the committee. There was a heritage impact assessment that was done by a heritage architect associated with this, and the comment related to the traditional quarter lot settlement pattern. It's intended to make sure that openness at intersections and vistas between those are protected. And again, I didn't write the heritage impact assessment, but I'm just reading this. This is on page 21. It says and states that the proposed division of a large corner lot to create a new lot will not have negative impact on views or vistas. The lot size and setback of the existing lot maintains the existing street pattern. And so that's the opinion as well of the heritage architect.
Okay, thank you. Many members, I'm taking up all the oxygen in the room. Just going to check with you a second time before we turn to the public. See if there's any questions for staff or the applicant. Still see none. Madam Secretary Treasurer, are there members of the public that we wish to speak to this application?
Yes, we do have Mr. Mark Rochon, who I'll move into the meeting. One moment, please.
Okay, and just before we do that, I'll just remind everybody again, if anyone wants to speak to this matter, please call in at 905-815-6095. I'm not aware of how many people wish to speak to this, but I will note the committee has received 15 letters of opposition. Many of them, the themes are quite consistent, dealing with trees, service and capacity, heritage attribute impacts of these housing. While we want to hear everybody's comments, we would ask that we want to hear different comments. We don't want to hear just the reiteration of the concerns that the person in front of you may have stated. So if you can assist us in moving the meeting along, that if you do call in, that we'd like to hear new information if at all possible. Mr. Roshan, good evening.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Your address, please.
Yes, thank you. My wife and I live at 44 George Street, which is right adjacent to 200 William Street. And we've had the great pleasure of living in this neighborhood for 20 years. And I appreciate the opportunity to briefly touch on a few matters related to these applications. First of all, the issue of community consultation. As a property right adjacent to 200 William Street, I can tell you that on no occasion were we ever consulted about any of these applications. No correspondence was received other than from the town. So I take it at the applicant's word that consultations occurred with the OLRA, but they did not occur with this neighbor. And as far as I know, many of the neighbors were not directly consulted with as well. Secondly, the point that you made, Mr. Chairman, about heritage property as opposed to heritage dwelling is a very important one. I cannot see how this proposed development will result in a structure that will not, I have double negatives here, degrade from the vistas and greenery, trees, canopy of this property. This is a very unique property, and it ought to be preserved. I was involved with the advice in the development of the new heritage bylaws and policies for the city, or for the town of Oakville rather. And the point that you've made about chicken and egg, essentially, which should go first, is important. And when the applicant's consultant said that the Heritage Committee could review it and modify the shutters or the finishes of the house, the Heritage Committee can also reject the application. So this is a very serious matter when it comes to trying to maintain the nature of the community and the significance of Old Oakville to the fabric of the community. And I understand the point made about balance between intensification and preserving the nature of the heritage property. However, in my view, the idea that you could squeeze a very large house into this property and call it gentle intensification when the applicant is asking for a 50% increase in the livable area of the building, it doesn't, to me, coincide with a definition of what gentle intensification would mean. So as neighbors, we would like to see the existing dwelling renovated and restored. But the idea that you could squeeze a property into a new dwelling into this property, and at the same time use comparisons with properties that were developed over 100 years ago, to me is beyond reasonableness.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, any questions for the neighbor? Okay, thank you, sir. We'll have Mr. Demchuk respond to all the comments that once we've gone through everyone who wishes to speak.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary Treasurer, anyone else wishing to speak?
We had another resident ask for the Zoom invite. I'm not sure, her hand isn't up. Oh, Julie Thompson, yes, she just put her hand up. I'll move her into the meeting. One moment, please.
Good evening, Ms. Thompson. You can unmute yourself and provide us with your address, please.
Good evening. Can everyone see me and hear me now?
We can. Please
Wonderful.
proceed.
Certainly. Good evening. My name is Julie Thompson. I live at 188 William Street, right next door to the proposed 200 William Street location. I can also concur with Mr. Rochon's comment with regards to communication from the applicant. We have received nothing. No spoken word, no letter, no notification whatsoever. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with regards to this application, to discuss the 3 variants to 200 William. The application has been undertaken very quickly, giving very little notification to prepare, consult, and defend. Also, no consultation with neighbors as well. I understand that your responsibility is to evaluate the application in accordance with the Planning Act and the planning policies governing minor variances. My comments are directed to those considerations. First, I ask the committee to consider whether this proposal truly meets the intent of the town's official plan. Second, the applicable zoning bylaw. These policies exist to ensure that development respects the established character of neighborhoods while balancing appropriate growth. Third, I ask the committee to consider whether the proposal is desirable for the appropriate development of the land. This property contains a historic building on a valuable original quarter lot that contributes significantly to the neighborhood's identity. The existing lot provides an appropriate setting for the heritage building. Creating an undersized lot would diminish the setting and could adversely affect both the historic property and the surrounding community. It is almost 200 years old and is part of the identified gully landscape area. Fourth, I question whether this application can genuinely be considered minor. While the physical dimensions may appear modest on paper, the impact is anything but minor. Severing the property would permanently alter a prominent historic corner lot and fundamentally change the landscape and character of the surrounding neighborhood, having severe ramifications on neighboring homes. As this application has been bundled, I would also ask the committee to consider each application separately, then consider the total sum of all parts. Severance being the first. 200 William Street is a contributing property that sits on one of the original quarter-acre lots that is part of the Historic Street 1833 survey. That is almost 200 years ago and is part of the identified gully landscape area. In the description of objectives on the old Oakville Heritage District Plan, it specifically identifies the original quarter-acre lots as having both historical, associative, and contextual value. In addition, the specific objectives of the old Oakville Heritage District Plan clearly indicated that as such, a severance application of an original quarter-acre lot in a gully landscape with mature private trees and streetscape vistas requires careful evaluation. How is what is proposed consistent with the overall objectives of the plan and as such, the town's official plan? I would argue that the combined impact of the original contributing property and the proposed infill development with a substantial increase in build-in form the lack of consideration of the gully landscape character in which this property sits, and the destruction of historic views and tree canopy on private property does not meet the intent and purpose of the Old Oakville Heritage Conservation District Plan, and as a result, the town's official plan. We would ask that any request for severance be declined or, at minimum, deferred until the impact associated with a proposed infill be appropriately assessed for its impact and alignment with the Old Oakville Heritage District Plan. Number 2, variances associated with the original contributing property. As I understand, the plan is to restore the 1920s home. As long as this follows all guidelines laid out by the Oakville Heritage Conservation District Plan and is restored properly, that is moot. Third, variances associated with the new infill build. This new building was being described initially as a 1.5 story. Today we've heard 2. This, in fact, is not true. It is a 3-story home, as it has not considered the gully landscape. The gully drop is almost immediately starting from the sidewalk to almost 15 feet. As part of the official plan, tree canopy is vital, an important element of this neighborhood. This proposed infill build will strip an extremely wooded lot bare and change the streetscape character considerably. There has been no analysis of the massing impact on the surrounding properties. For 188 William, this will have a devastating impact. With no trees and a wall that is significantly higher than our home, the impact on surrounding homes is still not fully understood as such and should delay any approval. We have guidelines and rules that are in place to protect and preserve our neighborhoods. None more important than our unique historical area. We are slowly seeing how this is being threatened and diminished. If we are not going to start taking stronger measures to preserve and protect these valuable assets, we will not have them in the long term. I implore you to look to the future, value the past, and maintain this cornerstone property. Finally, I respectfully submit that this proposal does not maintain the established character of this unique and picturesque neighborhood. The generous lots, mature landscaping, and historic homes are defining features of this area. Approving this severance would create a precedent that could eventually erode the qualities that make this neighborhood distinct. I respectfully ask the committee to carefully consider whether this proposed lot is sufficient size to accommodate appropriate development, whether the severance would negatively affect the heritage value and setting of existing historic buildings, whether the application satisfies the 4 tests for a minor variance, whether approval would be in the public interest and consistent with sound land use planning. For these reasons, I respectfully request that the committee deny these applications. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Committee members, any questions for the resident? See none. Madam Secretary Treasurer, has anyone else called in to speak to this matter?
We have one more neighbor who is in attendance, Charlotte Rumi. One moment, I'll move her into the meeting.
Good evening, Ms. Rumi.
Hello,
Good evening. We get your address, please.
I am at 185 William Street. So I am opposite, almost directly. I am, sorry,
We can see you now.
okay. I'm almost directly opposite the proposed new build on the severed lot. And from our perspective, looking at the streetscape that has been shown to us, the house that they are proposing to build seems to be swamping the 2 semi-detached homes that are next to it. at 188 and 186 William Street. We're very concerned about how it's going to affect the streetscape. We're very concerned about how it's going to affect the beautiful green property and the wildlife that we know exist on it. We're concerned about the services and the runoff. I wasn't really prepared to speak, so I don't have my notes in front of me, but my husband has something he'd like to add.
Just given that I have one question, and thanks for taking my comment. Given that it's a conservation area, a heritage district, and it's a quarter-acre lot, like everybody stated, and the house that's on it could be renovated, and in keeping with the piece of land, and the development could actually take place using that house, extending that house on George Street down towards the garage, like other houses have been in this area. So you could have a very nice single family dwelling home that's brought up to date in respect of the property that's there, adding to it with a lovely back garden, preserving all the trees and keeping the quarter-acre lot, and it could be quite valuable. So I'm wondering whether the owners have considered that type of possible suitable permit in terms of trying to sell the property.
I'd also like to mention that when the gentleman who's making the proposals for the variance mentioned the fact that there are many lots that are much smaller with higher density on them. This is why we're trying to put good rules in place that maintain that the lots are now not in the future overdeveloped. Because I look around me and I see that there's a lot of changes going on that I would see as questionable, a lot of hardscape going into the area. So a lot of the beautiful heritage gardens that were full of rhododendrons that people used to come for miles to visit, that had been there for 50+ years, have been removed and replaced with other types of vegetation. And I think that if we start taking these quarter-acre lots, we're going to be removing more of the original vegetation to the area. I watch so many people come down to this area throughout the week, and especially at weekends, just to visit what we have here, because it is beautiful. There is nowhere else like it, unless you go to Niagara-on-the-Lake or somewhere like that. And we are closer to Toronto. We offer people an opportunity to experience the countryside and the lake in an urban area. This is, we really, really need to preserve this. It is a very important part of Oakville, and it's in danger of really being overbuilt, and you know, we've really got to protect it. We can't let it just get completely changed.
Okay, thank you. And I'll ask Mr. Demchuk to respond to the question that you raised.
We also didn't get any letters.
Yes, we haven't heard
comments from the owners.
Nothing,
Just
not at all.
to say.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Madam Secretary Treasurer, any additional speakers?
I see Julie Thompson has raised her hand again, if you would allow her any more time.
I already gave Ms. Thompson additional time to what her allotment was, so I don't think that'd be appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
So if there's no other speakers, I'll just thank the residents who spoke, but you've had your opportunity. I gave everyone a little longer than the 5 minutes, so there's no supplemental questions, but we will have Mr. Demchuk respond. Mr. Demchuk, I'm gonna do my best to summarize for you what I heard the neighbors saying. First, that there's absolutely no consultation with the immediate neighbors across the street. That this is a heritage property, not just a heritage dwelling. Obviously, they're concerned about meeting the intent of the official plan and bylaw, the character of the streetscape, the fact that the severance of quarter-acre lots runs afoul of the Heritage District guidelines, a matter which I've raised with you myself. Suggestion of deferral, more consultation with the Heritage Committee and the neighbors. Question as to whether your client has considered expanding the heritage building as opposed to separating the property into two lots, and a concern that going forward the town needs to stop what the neighbors are calling the overbuilding that's been allowed in the past. A lot of items. I'm sure you were taking notes as well. Give you your opportunity to respond.
Thank you. I was taking notes and I appreciate the opportunity to respond. If I could ask staff to pull up specifically slide 8, I believe it is, of the presentation. And I'll go through a series of the comments, not necessarily in particular order as you've raised it, Mr. Taliski, but I will try to address all of them. Sorry, slide 8. I think it's one more above. Yes, thank you. Yes, the streetscape rendering. So perhaps I'll start here. There was a comment from the residents just concerning how this dwelling would potentially provide an overmassing or dwarfing, I believe was the terminology used to the existing dwellings, specifically to the west, being 188 William. I will note that, again, this property and the proposed dwelling, albeit, again, it provides for a lot coverage and floor area ratio that does exceed the bylaw requirements. It is, again, within the context of what you absolutely see in many cases in some significant variations within this heritage district. The height, the side yard setbacks, all other setbacks that are required within the zoning bylaw and within this district are being maintained for the proposed dwelling. Just while we're lingering on this slide, I'll just maybe make a comment on trees. I will note that there are no town trees or border trees that are proposed to be removed as part of this. There are, if I'm just going to briefly pull up my notes here, 4 regulated private trees that are proposed to be removed and 7 unregulated private trees also proposed to be removed as part of the proposed development, which is a total of 11. And those are all in the location of the proposed dwelling, as well as 1 tree in the location of the proposed driveway. I'll note that, again, that no trees are proposed to be removed, again, protecting the existing vista for the existing heritage dwelling. Just as it relates to the impact on the heritage guidelines, again, I'm not a heritage architect, but I will note that my client has hired a heritage consultant. We've submitted a significant heritage impact assessment that details all of the comments and goes through, in particular, all of the policies related to the heritage district guidelines associated with the property. And again, town staff have reviewed that as well. Town heritage staff have agreed with the recommendations and report noted by the heritage consultant. Just as it relates to public consultation, again, I know these applications are extremely challenging in many instances, and sometimes, obviously, unfortunately, public consultation does not always occur. From my perspective, again, there's been, I apologize if some residents did not get any mail outs. I know that was absolutely intended by my client. I can't speak to the specific reasons why those were not received by the residents, but I'll leave it at that. regarding the gentle intensification, and there was a comment about doubling the livable area within the building. Again, the proposed dwelling, based on the existing zoning bylaw requirements, just in my opinion, would not provide for, number one, a building that is necessarily livable on the retained lot, or sorry, on the severed lot. And again, it is my opinion that based on the lot fabric and analysis that we've provided, the existing floor area ratio and lot coverages in the zoning bylaw absolutely do not reflect the character of this neighborhood. And so from my perspective, it's processes like this, being the committee of adjustment, being the heritage review process that would look at, that would also assist in providing for that public consultation associated with, in many cases, any addition or any expansion to these proposed buildings within the Heritage Conservation District. Even in many cases, some existing properties are in, as provided within our lot fabric analysis, they're legal non-conforming conditions. And so any addition, any modification is going to require obviously review, both from a zoning perspective, but also within the context of the Heritage District guidelines. Just finally, as it relates to comments related to the fundamental change within the neighborhood, and a concern related to the consent. I believe Ms. McPhail noted this as well in her commentary earlier tonight. There are very few, if any, lots that have even the ability to support a potential consent within this Heritage Conservation District. This is a very unique situation where you have a lot with an existing dwelling that's situated and sited right on the corner of the property. And it does have a remnant excess property within the interior portion of that lot, which would allow for this to occur, unlike many of the other properties where you don't have a condition such as what is before the committee tonight, where you have properties that might have a dwelling that's situated center on the lot or in other locations on the lot, unlike what you see within the subject application. And sorry, just finally, just to make sure I respond to everything, there was a comment about potentially expanding the heritage dwelling. I can't comment on that. That was not looked at as part of this. The goal from the outset by my client was to retain in situ the heritage dwelling and improve its condition to the best extent possible within the context of reviewing the guidelines and working with our architect and heritage consultant. And it was determined again that this was again one of the only lots that could be considered from a severance perspective, and that's why the applications are before you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Demchuk. I am going to close the lengthy discussion on this matter and look to the committee for a motion on the severance application, the 2605. Mr. Hardcastle.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question before we go into committee? I apologize. Some of the conversation that is carried on has brought back around some of your initial lines of questioning that were similar to my own, and I'm looking for a little bit more information that might inform my position a little bit more. I would apologize again, Mr. Chairman.
Please go ahead.
This is with respect to the servicing matter and the timing of the servicing improvements in the general area. I understood that there was, if I heard correctly, there was a 2+ year time horizon that was identified. Is that before works would be done? Would be commenced, or would that be until it was available? I'm not sure, Mr. Demchuk or staff, whether who might be in a better position to answer this, assuming that there are no regional staff available. Okay, I see staff have got their hand up, and I'm probably going to follow up with an additional question or two.
Thank you, member. Through the chair, to answer your question about the timing of servicing, the region has indicated that they have plans to make improvements. They don't know the exact time frame, but they did say it could be 6 months. but it could also extend beyond the 2 years, potentially to 5. But what the consent agreement would contain, it would contain some verbiage to indicate that the applicant or the landowner is not to erect a building or to get a building permit until servicing is available, and however the region determines that servicing is available. And this is something that was considered based on the fact that the applicant has spent 2 years with working with the town and with regional staff with respect to this proposal. This is not to be considered this is to be considered as a one-off under the circumstances, and it has been made clear to town staff that there would be no further, no additional units or creation of units within the downtown area that's being serviced by this wastewater treatment plant. So the details in the consent agreement would be agreeable to all parties, which the landowner would be party to, the town, as well as the region. There is another option as well, and it would be registered on title, this consent agreement, for the new lot. Should the new lot, if it is created, new purchasers would not be able to erect a building on the site as well. So it wouldn't just be the current owner, but it would be perpetual until the servicing became available.
Through Mr. Chairman, as a follow-up question, I'm struggling a little bit, having some familiarity myself in with the way these things tend to go through. Why the region at this point in time doesn't understand the time frame? Is this within a capital plan, and is it budgeted for within that capital plan for the works that are necessary in order to support the servicing capacity increase to accommodate the new dwelling?
Through the chair to the member, we know that this area of Oakville is serviced by the treatment plant is a growth area. So the region is aware that additional units are to be accommodated within the treatment plant. And so in terms of timing of when what's happening, that I couldn't answer. It's between the servicing group at the region and the long range planning and those who provide comments to the town. So as was indicated earlier, there was no indication from the region that there was an issue with servicing until this application was formally submitted. And so that's where this is a unique circumstance where a consent agreement, which is not typically a condition of consent, is being contemplated. I see the agent has his hands up as well.
If I briefly may, just to the member, it is my understanding, just to answer your specific question about capital forecast, that this is within the capital forecast to provide these servicing upgrades. I believe they just don't know when the contract will be issued. And so to deal Ms. McPhail's point, it's whether it's within 6 months or 2 years or 5 years, they have not allocated for when that specifically will occur.
Thank you.
Hardcastle, you indicated a second question.
The follow. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the follow up was my second question. I was anticipating going down that path. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this time I'm really going to close all discussion. Look for a motion on the severance application at this time. Ms. Price. You're muted still, Ms. Price.
Okay. With respect to the consent application, taking into account my site visit, the reports by the agent and planning staff, Halton Region, and the 15 letters of opposition, I believe the consent application should be denied. Proper consultation was not done properly. I feel the consultation was not done properly. The heritage property was not considered versus the heritage dwelling was not taken into account. Sanitary service capacities need to be resolved, as well as the proposed construction of the new dwelling to be approved by the Halton permit. Sorry, be approved by the heritage permit. So I'm requesting that the application be denied.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Mr. Hardcastle, any comment on the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have some reservations with respect to this proposal as well. I believe that the application is premature at this point in time. I think that there are significant matters that need to be addressed, particularly around the servicing piece. Consent agreement may be a tool to be used in some situations. I believe that the feasibility and availability of servicing to be a fundamental question under Section 53 of the Planning Act in the consideration of a consent. So I will support the motion on the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Hardcastle. And I will just add, if this application were anywhere else but the Heritage Conservation District, I would have concerns about the prematurity for reasons I raised. I would maintain my concerns about the requested conditions not being appropriate. But in my mind, the biggest aspect here is the applicants suggesting that this is one of the only few remaining opportunities in the Heritage District to sever a quarter-acre lot. That tells me that we should be preserving these quarter-acre lots, because there's virtually none left. I cannot find that this application in the Heritage District with the Heritage Guideline to not sever these is in any way consistent with the official plan or represents good planning. So, I'm also going to support that motion to deny. So I will then call the vote. All those in support of the motion to deny the severance application. Mr. Demchuk, your application for severance has been denied. And Ms. Price, if I can call on you to also bring a motion with respect to minor variance A44 and A45 2026 separately, of course.
Taking into account my site visit, the reports by the agent and planning staff, Halton Region, and 15 letters of opposition, I believe the variances are not minor in nature, in particular the residential floor area. The 4 tests of the Planning Act have not been met. I therefore recommend the application be denied.
Any discussion on that motion? Are those in favor of the motion to deny application A44? That is unanimous. That application has also been denied. And Ms. Price, we can get a motion on A45.
Okay. Taking into account my site visit, the reports by the agent and planning staff, Halton Region, and 15 letters of opposition, I believe the variances are not minor in nature, in particular the residential floor area. The 4 tests of the Planning Act have not been met, and I recommend the application be denied.
Thank you. Any discussion? I see none. All those in favor, motion to deny. That as well is unanimous. Mr. Demchuk, your 3 applications this evening have been denied. Given that this is not your only stop in the process, you also have to deal with heritage. Strongly suggest you also consult with the neighbors and try to move this thing forward to a more successful outcome.
Thank you, members.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who participated. Madam Secretary Treasurer, help me out here. We're now moving to A042 at 193 Wilder. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Is the agent for 193 Wilder available?
Yes,
I see.
I've just moved her into the meeting.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Saban Mathnu from QBS Architects. I am the agent.
Can we just get your address, please?
14 Crofton Road, Toronto, Ontario, M4G 2B4.
Thank you. Please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you. We are here before you to present a revised application. We were, before this application was deferred on March 18 to allow us to have time to work with the planning department. They generously provided their feedback. We worked closely with them and we revised our application to their satisfaction. We are here before you to ask for 4 minor variances. The number of variances was reduced, and every single variance was reduced as well. At the same time, we worked together with them to change the architecture to their satisfaction. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. We have 9 letters of support. Our client went door to door to all neighbors to seek the support. And we got 9 letters of support, which is almost every single neighbor.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, any questions for the applicant? Mr. Hardcastle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering if perhaps I see that for the presentation there was just a letter put up. Maybe just for anybody who's watching, can we just have a quick look at the drawings just to make sure that people understand what's before? I think the applicant has done a good job in terms of consulting with the neighbors, but maybe there are plans that we can make available.
Yes, application, exactly. So in the same presentation that we provided, you can see the site plan, which everything you can see in green basically reflects the improvements. So the improvements included increasing the side yard setback from 3.3 meter to 3.6 meter, and pushing the mass of the garages further back from the front property line. So now the setback of the garages vary between 12.7 meter to 14.7 meter. The FSI, or like floor space index, has been reduced. The coverage has been reduced at the same time. The architecture has been updated. There were dormers, decorative dormers on the roof line. They were removed, which you can see that in the elevation. Thank you so much. Which it's basically mentioned here if you look at the arrow. So we had like fake dormers. We removed them to basically eliminate any confusion that there is a 3-story building as well. The front yard setback variance has been eliminated. The building depth variance has been eliminated. So the entire footprint has been shrunk.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions from the committee? See none. Secretary Treasurer, has anyone called in to speak to this matter?
We've had no calls and we have no hands in the audience.
Thank you. I will close the discussion and look for a motion on this matter. Mr. Hardcastle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Having undertaken my site visit, having reviewed the materials, including the written staff report, and having heard the presentation, I'm satisfied that the requested variances conform to the four tests of the Act, and that modifications that have been made have been have improved the design of the building. Accordingly, I'll put forward a motion of approval subject to conditions, those being that the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings revision number 14 dated June 3rd, 2026, and that the approval will expire within 2 years of the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued. I would note that there were 9 letters of support submitted with respect to this, and the applicant engaged in a significant consultation prior to coming before us.
Thank you, Mr. Hardcastle. Any discussion on the motion to approve? All those in favor of the motion to approve? That is unanimous. Your application has been approved.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. You too. Moving on to A091 of 2026, 1315 to 1325 North Service Road East. This matter was before us in June and deferred for the applicant to seek greater clarity on the floor space that they were asking for. And I would note that the original application, as this one, has a letter of objection from the same local area resident, which I'm sure Mr. Cohen will address in his presentation. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. I do have a presentation. Oh, I see it's coming up right now. So good evening, everyone. My name is Darren Cohen. I'm a planner at Weston Consulting here for the property at 1315, 1325 North Service Road. As you mentioned, the application was deferred from the previous meeting in June to correct a discrepancy with the statistics. That's now been corrected, and I want to thank staff for their patience, and thanks to the committee for allowing us to work through that. And so we're back here tonight to request one variance. Next slide, please. So as you can see, the site is located on the north side of North Service Road. There's currently a 7-story office building on the site with associated surface parking. There is a residential neighborhood located to the west that is separated by a multi-use trail and a wooded area. And there are office buildings located directly north and south of the site. And then on the opposite side of North Service Road in the QEW is the Ford Motor Assembly Complex. Next slide, please. This slide just illustrates the site again and the surrounding land uses, but in a broader context. So as you can see here, the site is located in an area that is designated business employment. Their area across the QEW is designated industrial, and the residential neighborhood to the west is a low-density residential neighborhood. And then the area that separates the business employment and the residential neighborhood is a natural area. It's considered to be a natural area with a multi-use path, as I mentioned previously. Next slide, please. So this just further reinforces the context that I just spoke to. So as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, the site is designated business employment, and the east side of the QEW is designated industrial. The business employment area is intended to provide a wide range of uses, including office, as well as some light industrial uses, provided they have a minimal impact on the surrounding area. Whereas the industrial designation to the east is intended to be much heavier type of uses. On the right side of the screen, you can see the zoning bylaw zones the site business employment, E2, and the residential zone is located on the opposite side, again, of that multi-use path. So the proposed use, which is a fitness center, which is defined as a sports facility, it is permitted in both the business employment and the in the business employment designation and the business employment E2 zone. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about the proposed development. It is a 2-story sports facility located along the northern edge of the site. which you can see in the dark gray box within the red borders of the site. The existing full moves access off of North Service Road will remain and be the main point of egress into and out of the site. And the existing 7-story office building will also be retained. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, while the use is permitted in the zoning bylaw, the bylaw restricts a sports facility to 1,000 square meters for any lot within 100 meters of a residential zone. And the purpose of this provision is to ensure that there are no negative impacts, or that negative impacts are minimized from a sports facility to an adjacent residential area, particularly with things such as noise or light pollution. And so we're requesting relief from this provision to permit a sports facility that is 6,620 square meters in area. Next slide, please. So as you can see, although the lot, which is shown here, this is an excerpt of the site plan that we saw previously, just zoomed in to the area of the proposed fitness building. The lot, which is in red, although it is less than 100 meters from the residential area to the west, which is shown in that dark black line on the left-hand side of the screen, it's about 50 meters away. The proposed building is over 100 meters away from the property, from the residential zone, and set back 61 meters from the property line. And as you can see, there is a 50-meter buffer that we've dashed in to provide that 100-meter distance between the residential zone and the proposed development. It's important to point out as well that the fitness center, it will be fully enclosed. The operations will be fully enclosed and limited to the inside of the building. And so the purpose, as I mentioned, the purpose and intent of the bylaw provision is to ensure that there are no negative impacts to the residential neighborhood with respect to things like noise or light pollution. And in this case, because the building is set back 100 meters from the area and the operations will be fully enclosed, with the main point of access being North Service Road, continuing to be off North Service Road. I'm of the opinion that no negative impacts are anticipated and that the intent of the bylaw is maintained. And generally, it's my opinion that the requested variance meets all 4 tests under the Planning Act and represents good planning. Next slide, please. So that's the end of my presentation. I have read through the correspondence that was submitted by members of the public. Happy to speak to those items or answer any questions that the committee may have.
Mr. Paul, perhaps you could respond to the letter that was filed in opposition.
Yeah, absolutely. So I understand, and I just have the letters in front of me just for reference. So if you see me looking off to the side of the screen, that's I'm just referring to them. I understand that there are some concerns with things related to traffic, things related to operation, and the size of the facility. I would, I guess, respond by saying, valid concerns. My client is in the process of preparing a formal site plan application that will be submitted to the town. It will include a full traffic study, and it will certainly take a close look at the traffic that exists and that will be anticipated to be generated from the proposed development. But again, because we are maintaining access off North Service Road, we're not anticipating that there'll be a significant impact to adjacent properties, and certainly appreciate some concerns around maybe some of the impacts that this will have on the adjacent property. But again, as I mentioned in my presentation, the intent of the bylaw is to maintain that 100-meter separation distance between this type of a use in a residential area, and that is what we are providing, albeit through a 50-meter lot-to-lot separation and then a further more than 50-meter setback from the property line. So appreciate appreciate some of those concerns. But again, the use is permitted in the zoning bylaw. I believe we're maintaining the intent, and certainly through technical review, there will be lots of opportunity to ensure that any potential impacts are further mitigated through that application process.
Okay, thank you very much. Committee members, any questions for the applicant? See none. Madam Secretary Treasurer, has anybody called in for this matter?
We've had no calls and we're showing 0 hands in the audience.
Okay, thank you. And I will close the discussion and look for a motion on this matter. Ms. Price.
Taking into consideration my previous site visit, the revised report from the agent and planning staff, and the letter of opposition, I find the variance to be minor in nature and that the application meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. I put forth a recommendation that the application be approved subject to the following conditions. The proposed sports facility be located in a minimum distance of 50 meters from the rear of the lot line. The landowner applies for and receives site plan approval for a sports facility to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning and Development within 2 years of this decision.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Any discussion on the motion to approve? All those in favor of the motion to approve? That is unanimous. Your application has been approved.
Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate it.
Okay, have a good evening. Application A092 2026 at 467 Grindstone Trail. Anyone wants to speak to this matter, please call 905-815-6095. You have homeowner? Good evening. We can get your name and address, please. Showing as unmuted, but can't hear you. Cannot hear anything. Secretary Treasurer, should the applicant call in? Seem to be having some technical difficulties.
Yes, maybe you could repeat the number to call in, please, Mr. Chair.
Certainly. We can't hear you. You're showing as unmuted. There must be some issue. If you could call 905-815-6095, should be able to get you into the meeting that way.
Okay, we're sending him another invite to the meeting and hopefully that one will work. I'm just waiting for him to show up in the meeting.
Okay. The original one is still showing up. Hopefully this will.
Mr. Chair, could you please repeat the phone number for him to call? We need him to call back again.
Okay, 905-815-6095. Let me know if you think we should skip this one for the time being and move on with the agenda. Wait.
Mr. Singh, if you're watching, please call the number again.
905-815-6095.
Okay, Jen said that she is going to try one more time. If we could give him another minute, please, and then we'll move on if we don't have any luck.
If not, we'll just move them to the end of the agenda.
Hello?
Hey, we can hear you now. Technology is a
Hello.
wonderful thing when it works.
Yeah, good evening to you. My apologies for the inconvenience.
That's quite all right. We just get
So
your
thank you.
name and address, please, sir.
Sure. My name is Sajinder Singh. The address is 467 Grindstone Trail, Oakville.
Okay, thank you. You can proceed with your presentation.
Sure. So, team, I do not have a presentation since the minor variance was very small. However, I can share that the proposed landing, which is currently 3 foot by 3 foot, would be about 1 foot from the interior side property line, whereas the zoning bylaw normally requires it to be about 2 feet. So the minor variance currently being requested is just under 10 inches, which is 9.84 inches exactly.
If staff could advance, I think it's 1 or 2 drawings that shows, there we go. The drawing that's on the screen, Mr. Singh, is showing the
Yes.
landing with the stairs up and down on
Yes.
each side.
Yes, that's correct, sir.
And that's 1 foot away from the property line where it should be 2.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you for that information, committee members.
Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? See none. Madam Secretary Treasurer, has anyone called in on this matter?
We have had no calls and no hands up in the audience.
Okay, thank you. We'll close discussion and entertain a motion. Mr. Hurtcastle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Having undertaken my review, including a site visit and the staff report, and having heard the words from the property owner, I'm prepared to put forward a motion of approval, finding that the requested variance conforms to the 4 tests of the Act. This motion would be subject to 2 conditions, those being that the uncovered platform be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plans submitted to the town on June 8th, 2026, and that the approval will expire within 2 years of the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction. I would note that there were no members of the public present with respect to this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Hurtcastle. Any discussion on the motion to approve? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve? That is unanimous. Your application has been approved, sir.
Thank you very much. My apologies for the delay. Have a lovely evening.
Not a problem. Have a good evening.
Thank you, sir.
Application A93 of 2026 at 361 McDonald Road was deferred earlier this evening. In case anyone in the audience is here for that application, it will come back at a later date. Further notice will be provided. We will move to A094-2026 at 2700 Bristol Circle. I'm back, Mr. Demchuk.
Good evening again, members of the committee. Thank you. I have prepared a brief presentation. Okay, great. So yes, Paul Demchak with Patori Planning and Management. I've been retained for the property at 2700 Bristol Circle. So the subject site, if I could take you to the next slide, please. It's located within the Winston Park employment area in the town and is situated on the east side of Bristol Circle with Brighton Road located to the south and Portland Drive to the north. It's a generally rectangular shaped lot with a significant area of over 37,000 square meters, including over 200 meters of lot frontage. The subject site currently consists of an existing employment building with ancillary parking, which is accessed via both Brighton Road and Portland Drive. And the property has been previously used and occupied by both a place of worship and event space, as well as existing logistics uses. Next slide, please. The proposed development includes a site plan application and the current minor variance application before the committee, which is intended to construct 2 industrial buildings on the site with a total of 25 units. Building A, which is intended to be constructed first, is located on the eastern portion of the site or on the right-hand side of the image. Will provide for over 11,000 square meters of gross floor area of employment uses across 13 units. And building B, which is intended as a second phase on the western portion, is also just over 11,000 square meters, albeit it has 12 units. And I'll note that each unit has a second story mezzanine, which is intended to be associated with the main primary uses for each of the respective units. If I could go to the next slide, please. I'll note that to accommodate the proposed development, 2 variances are required. The first being one of the provisions for accessory parking associated with business offices for the development, and the second variance being to the overall landscape coverage. And I'll explain both of these in a brief moment. Next slide, please. So just as it relates to the accessory business office, I'll note that, and I have it here just noted on the right-hand side of the screen, within bylaw 2014-014, there's a section under 5214 where it states that where a business office is provided accessory to a different main permitted use within this zone category, the parking rate for the main permitted use shall apply for this floor area, provided that the business offices occupies an area equal to or less than 25% of the total area of the lot. And so in this instance, what the client, which is BD International and has developed a number of these projects across Canada and specifically in Ontario and the Greater Toronto area, they're looking to develop these units with a total of 30% of accessory business office being within those mezzanine spaces rather than the 25% noted in the bylaw. This is primarily a function of obviously market concerns and reasons for obviously the increase in use. And what they have submitted in conjunction with the minor variance application, but also the site plan application that is currently under review by the town of Oakville, is that the parking study identified a peak parking demand of 201 spaces for the proposed development, whereas the proposal includes 245 spaces across each respective building, which obviously exceeds the peak parking demand based on the comparable sites. And I will note that the staff report stated that within the findings of the study, staff are satisfied that the proposed parking rate and the corresponding parking supply are appropriate and sufficient to accommodate the anticipated demand for the development. Next slide, please. So I will note that the variance for the landscape area is being reduced from 10% to 9.7%. And obviously it's intended that that landscape coverage is to provide for adequate landscaping spaces and adequate stormwater retention for these employment sites. I will note that staff have confirmed that and this is noted in the staff report, that the canopy coverage complies with the applicable requirements, and that there's over 80 trees being planted as part of the proposed development, which, in addition to the canopy targets being met, this will significantly improve the existing site conditions, as well as the intended landscaping and stormwater retention for the development. Next slide, please. So just briefly, the subject site, again, it's located within the Winston Park business and industrial neighborhood. It features a wide range of land uses and business operations that are diverse and intended to provide for economic opportunities within the town. I will note that obviously the proposed development is supportive of this diversity and range for economic development in a location where it's intended. That summarizes my presentation, and happy to assist in answering the questions.
Thank you, Mr. Demchuk. Any questions for the applicant? See none. Madam Secretary Treasurer, has anyone called in on this matter?
We've had no calls and no hands in the audience.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the discussion and look for a motion. Ms. Price. You're muted, Ms. Price. Ms. Price, you're still muted.
Taking into account my site visit, the detailed report by the agent and staff's report, I find the variance to be minor in nature and meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act. I recommend the application be approved subject to the following conditions. That the development be constructed in general accordance with the final approval site plan, SP 1403.070/01, to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning and Development, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion to approve? That is unanimous. Your application has been approved.
Thank you, members. Have a good evening.
You too. Final application of the evening, A095-2026 at 1334 Warwick Avenue. Anyone wishing to speak to this matter, please call 905-815-6095. And Mr. Rubinoff, and good evening, sir.
Good evening. It's nice to be last.
We could get your name and address for the record. And
Yes, it's Glenn Rubinoff from Rubinoff Design Group.
Your address, please, sir.
It's 2 St. Clair Avenue West, Toronto, Ontario.
Okay, thank you. We note the staff's not supporting your application, but please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you very much. Good evening, members of the committee. I'm here today to request 1 variance for front yard setback to the proposed home at 1334 Warwick Avenue. I have read the correspondence submitted by the Planning Department and Conservation Halton. I would first like to address the deferral request by Conservation Halton, as it was surprising to see this after there was substantial communication back and forth and an agreement substantially in place after our consulting engineering team at EMC Group were consulted and studies and amendments to the plans were prepared to support this application to their satisfaction. As such, the request for deferral was unnecessary, as it will be a condition of approval anyways for the building permit. We did provide a report as part of our submissions, letter of support from EMC. We would hereby request that the hearing proceed as scheduled and that the request for deferral be denied. We have provided a report by the EMC Group to ensure the application has been updated and conforms to the requested house location on the lot. I would now like to address the comments of the Planning Department with regards to the 1 variance requested before you today. We are requesting a front yard setback of 4.13 meters where 7.65 meters is required. The property is located on an interior curve in the southwest corner on the street, with a variety of 1- and 2-story homes with setbacks to the street, with no consistent established front yard setback pattern. There are some homes which are set further back and some which are closer to the street. The setbacks have a lot to do with the age of the homes and the proximity of the homes to the 14 Mile Creek ravine, some of which have been redeveloped and setbacks adjusted depending on the land available to build upon. There have been front yard setback approvals on the street and around the corner, which have been approved by committee for closer front yard setback due to site conditions similar to ours. Even the immediate homes in the immediate block have variations to their front yard setbacks. 1320 and 1326 Warwick, just a few doors down, extend further into the front of other adjacent homes along the straight portion of the street. Committee of Adjustment approvals of 4.14 at 518 Stafford Drive around the corner and also on the slight curve is backing onto the ravine, and an approval of 5.4 meters front yard setback at 1357 Pine Grove Road. It's an extended portion of Warwick Avenue. Also around the corner is a new multi-story home, but designed thoughtfully as it also backs onto the ravine. Both of these properties fall within the 60-meter notification catchment area. The planning staff report, which was prepared and uploaded without any consultation with the owner, is deficient in its assessment of how the house was designed to fit with the neighborhood, and the fact that the proposed house complies with the majority of zoning bylaws. The lack of additional variances before you is an indication of the way in which the house was designed to minimize impacts to adjacent neighbors and on the conservation land. While the permitted height for a new home in this area is 12 meters, my client's home is designed with a modest height of 9.41 meters and is designed with a low slope roof, well below the height restriction. The planner provided a description of how to design a home to minimize massing and mitigate potential impacts of overshadowing on adjacent properties. This is exactly what we have done. There are no side yard setback variances as verified by our team. So in effect, we have no substantial impact on our neighbors' homes, as was our intention. The front yard setback. This setback is intended for my client to build a family home with minimal impact to the 14 Mile Creek ravine. By moving the house forward, it has allowed for that protection to take place. As you can see from the site plan, the majority of the property remains natural and undisturbed. The front yard setback variance requests of 4.13 verified by staff is to the steel post of the front porch, not the home itself. The setback to the home itself depends on where it's taken from. The setback is 5.5 meters at one corner and 6.41 meters at the other corners, with 5.18 at the front door. So in fact, when the planner talks about impact and how the reduction will bring the massing closer, 3.52 meters closer to the street, it's not entirely accurate. There is a variation of setbacks from lot lines due to the curvature of the lot and where the front yard setback is taken from. The suggestion that the front yard setback will have a substantial negative impact on the neighbor is not clear when factoring where the setbacks are taken from. Considering there are no comments of concern by other departments, and Conservation Halton stated at the top of their recommendations that they do not have concerns with the requested variance, it is my opinion that this application meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act and is appropriate for the subject lands. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee members, any questions for the applicant? I see none. Mr. Rubinoff, when I look at the plan, the concern I have is you've got a substantial 2-story mass that you're proposing to bring 10 feet on one side, 11 feet on the other side in front of the adjacent houses. That's to the building itself, not the porch. And I think that's where I have concern with the application, that not only you've got a situation right now where the 3 houses are virtually aligned as you go around the curve, and not only are you asking to bring it forward, which I understand because of your constraints in the backyard, but it's the two-story mass. There's seems to be no attempt to set back the second floor, soften the mass by dropping the roof line. Why haven't you proceeded in that manner, which in my view would have less of an impact because of the variant?
Thank you for your comments. As I was alluding to earlier, there is a bylaw in place to allow for buildings which are 12 meters in height. And this house was designed as a modest two-story. It's not the tallest building it could be. It is a two-story home. My client has to deal with the realities that he cannot go back because of substantial impacts. And they've worked with this engineering team to try to work out a plan for his house that is functional, but it requires some modifications inside and outside to allow him to have a functional space. It's not a house which is a complete square. It's got a courtyard in the middle. As you can see, it's not a full mass that goes all the way back. It's got a couple of wings there. It's designed very much just to give him a functional place to live. It's really not intended. And when we talk about impacts, we also look at the angle of the lot, because it angles further out as you go back, and the neighboring house on the right, 1348, they're also on an angle. So as we go back, the separation between the homes increases. But obviously, I can tell you, we personally prefer to move back, but we simply just don't have the space. And we made every effort to make this plan work while respecting the needs of Conservation Halton. And we don't have variances for those other elements of it. We do respect I do respect your comments, and normally I would, in a situation where we weren't pushed to the limit, which is really what we are, we're just trying to work something out that's functional for him. But I do feel that, it's not as big a house as he could build, because he doesn't want the biggest house. He just wants to be able to have the space that he needs for his family.
Still almost 4,800 square feet. That's a substantial house still. Okay, thank you. Committee members, any questions for the applicant? Madam Secretary Treasurer, has anyone called in to speak to this matter? I see we have one letter of support and there was a request to call in.
Yes, we have Michael Noga here who would like to speak. I'm going to move him into the meeting. One moment.
Good evening, Mr. Noga. If you could unmute yourselves, turn your camera on, give us your name and address, please.
So Mr. Noga sent in a presentation, which we've brought up onto the screen at the moment.
Thank you. Good evening, sir.
Okay. Can you hear me? Oh, good. You can see me too. Okay, that's better.
Please, sir.
My name is Michael Noga. I'm at 1340 Warwick, next door. So I am west of the building. And there's a few things that the drawings have got a couple of errors in them. I'm not sure that's relevant to the discussion this evening, but the the left and the east and the west profile don't match with the metal canopy. Perhaps the biggest concern that I have is the drawings as presented don't meet the bylaw encroachment. And I believe from the town of Oakville bylaw department, there is a maximum encroachment of 0.6 meters from the 4-foot setback. And if you could look at the proposed front elevation, you'll see that the eaves trough is, if you go through that, you'll see that the eaves trough is showing there where I've got per zoning bylaw. That should be 2 feet. And I don't understand why that isn't being met, although Mr. Rubinoff says that he has met all of the zoning bylaws. Now, in addition, the front elevation doesn't truthfully represent what the home is going to look like from the center perspective, because you will see the side wall. And I did provide a picture of 1339 Pine Grove, which is there. And that shows what the front elevation ought to look like, because you will see the side wall. And that speaks to your massing issue. So those are my concerns with what the building design as presented. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Committee members, any questions for the neighbor? See none. Mr. Rubinoff, would you like to respond to the comments that you heard?
Illustration of elevations is sometimes it's a bit complex, and we can sometimes it can sometimes be difficult to illustrate everything that's going on when you have an angle going on. I mean, I agree with Michael that it could be reflected in that way. We tend to focus on flat surfaces in our elevations, but indeed it would extend much as the property line extends. It's following the line of the property line.
So what I have shown is accurate.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Noga. So you've had your opportunity.
Okay, apologies.
But yes, what Mr. Rubinoff just indicated, that they're showing the front face of the elevation, but in reality, because the house flares out similar to the property lines, you would see a greater mass when looking at the house. And Mr. Rubinoff, the other question was with respect to perhaps your eave is encroaching too far on one side of the property into the side yard setback. I know staff don't do a detailed zoning review. It's something that if you were to get approved might get caught with another variance if that is the case. But
well, yeah, it is. We accept that if there's adjustments that need to be made as a result of oversight, we would of course deal with that. We understand. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Noga. Madam Secretary Treasurer, is anyone called in to speak to this matter?
We've had no more calls and no other hands in the audience.
Okay, thank you. And I am going to close discussion on this matter and look for a motion. Mr. Hardcastle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see the constraints that are present on this site in order to address the competing needs. But ultimately, the front yard setback being requested is less than exists within the area, will be significantly in front of the face of the adjacent buildings, and to a degree to which I cannot consider that to be minor. I won't be able to support this variance. I'll be putting forward a motion to refuse the application, as it does not conform to the four tests of the Act.
Thank you, Mr. Hardcastle. Any discussion on that motion? I would just add that I will support Mr. Hardcastle's motion. While I understand the constraints, this is still a sizable, in excess of 4,700 square foot house. I think the applicant should have attempted to try to mitigate the impact of the mass of the variances requesting to bring the house forward. Okay, the motion is to deny the application. All those in favor? That is unanimous. I'm sorry, sir, but your application has been denied.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the applications for tonight. We have minutes to confirm from June 24th. Ms. Price, thank you. And a motion to adjourn. Mr. Hardcastle at 9:11 p.m.